bit. Hey, Derek Keet, Remax Elite.
Marc Demong, glad to be with you.
Yeah, so today we're just talking about estate planning. We all hope and we all, like, eventually this stuff, you kind of have to meet with it, right? People who own real estate, if they pass away, it has to be transferred, and these sort of things have to happen, and with families, and we don't want to think about it, but this stuff happens, and we're just talking about how we can handle that and how everything works. So please like, subscribe, give us that thumbs up. Thank you.
Well, Derek, estate planning is a big part of my law practice, and I've been doing this for over 30 years. I don't like to admit that. And oftentimes you'll hear people a generation above us, our parents, will be thinking about, we've got the will set up, or maybe they don't, and they should get one. If you don't have a will, get one.
Right.
But they're thinking about the experience they heard from their neighbor who said in the event of when someone passed away, they went to the lawyer and the lawyer charged them thousands and thousands of dollars to do a job that seemed relatively straightforward.
Right.
And so a person in that case will think, well, I've only got one child or I've got two children, so why don't I just add them onto my land title, and then I'll skip the lawyer in the event of passing, because if you add a person's name to a land title as a joint owner,
yep,
then there's a principle called survivorship. The person who passes away first, their name can be removed from the title by providing the land titles office with proof of death. Right. And then the survivors are the remaining owners of the property.
Right.
Now that sounds very simple, and maybe you do avoid
taxes,
certain legal
all kinds
expenses.
of stuff. Right.
Well, you open up a lot of different things, and that's why I mentioned before that there's a lot of different rabbit holes we can run down. Now, the first one, I guess that I'd like to get into is making that decision. If a person's parents say, I'm going to add Junior onto the title, well, what I want them to think about is, that seems like a good idea today, but if mom or dad are both in very good shape today, but they might at some point in the future, in the next 10 or 15 or 20 years, decide, maybe we should downsize, maybe we should sell this property and move into an assisted living complex. Right. Now, by adding Junior's name onto the title, now they need Junior's signature in order to make that sale go ahead.
Right.
And that, in most cases, we talked about a family situation where there's a lot of trust in a previous podcast.
Right.
And sure, when there's a lot of trust, great, add Junior on, and when you tell Junior sign here because we're selling the house, Junior signs.
Right.
What if Junior doesn't sign?
Right. And a lot of, I guess that's a common problem where with real estate as well, where people, when they're buying something, they often don't think of when they're going to sell it. I mean, they might not think either they're going to pass away, or like you said, they're going to, like a lot of people, when they buy that bigger house, or they buy something, they don't think of down the road, maybe we want a smaller house, or maybe we want less, or maybe we want more, or whatever kind of happens. So I guess life changes, right? And we deal with that a lot, because a lot of what real estate is as well is where we have changes that people, either they're getting, like, not sometimes bad, sometimes good, right? They have an extra child, they want a bigger house, they got a dog and the backyard is too small, but then it's also the other way, they got divorced, they got, someone passed away, or all these sort of things can happen, right? So I guess having that estate planning, and I guess when you're saying more when someone passes away, or like you said, if they're gonna downsize later, or all these sort of things. So planning correctly in order to make it so that when life does change, they're not screwed, right?
To do that estate planning transfer, it's a simple thing to make the decision and sign the transfer of land.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of different things that should be taken into account and assessed before signing that transfer of land, because once it's signed, you can't reverse it.
Right.
And the example again, mom and dad are signing the house to add Junior onto the title. Well, adding Junior onto the title, that creates a scenario where, generally speaking, Junior is not a resident of the home, and so mom and dad can sell or give away the house with no tax consequences because it's their principal residence. Right. Junior, on the other hand, when he receives the gift of a 1/3 interest or whatever interest from mom and dad, Now he's got a capital value of the interest that was just gifted to him. So
it's big capital gains.
Right. When he sells that property, there's going to be a calculation, or when mom and dad sell the property, now there's going to be a calculation of what was the value of Junior's interest when he acquired it, and what is the value of that interest when it is sold. And there will likely be an increase in value, and Junior will be reporting it.
Right. So suddenly he just thought, oh, for later, and then suddenly he's getting a tax bill.
It could work out that way.
Right.
Another issue, because you pointed out the divorce issue.
Yeah.
Well, Junior's married, and when he receives the interest in the title, and then Junior gets divorced.
Right.
And so Junior's wife is going to file.
She wants half of that, half of the parents' house, and she doesn't like them, right?
That's and instead of going through the law, she likely will just file a certificate of pending litigation.
Right.
And it might end up where Junior doesn't lose too much money as a result, but he's going to be paying his lawyer to sort that out. And it's just one of those things that. Think about it in advance and be aware that this could be a thing. Another thing that happens is Junior has some problems with his credit card and doesn't pay his credit card bill.
Parents are losing the house.
The Visa company sues him, and they can register a judgment against his interest in the house. And so now mom and dad own the title clear, and now they own it as a 1/3 interest owner. And
they're on
Visa,
pension, and they're getting by, right?
Visa has a registration against Junior and against their title, and that just creates a mess. So it's one of those things. If your top priority is avoiding expenses in the event of death, it's an easy thing to do.
Right.
Those other things might be lower percent chances, but they are things that you should take into account. And,
well, it's even the idea, like we got into when you get into farms, right? Farms, where if they're farming the property, there's different ways you can set it up so that it's like he's selling it, because you get $1 million of capital gains at this point, right? I guess we're going down a bit of a rabbit hole here, but the idea is with that, we're setting it up properly so he can, like the owner, let's say the father is selling the property to the kids before he passes away, and then he's selling it at a price where they'll pay the money later on their capital, like so they get their $1 million kind of for their lifetime allotment, and there's all kinds of things that can kind of work, right? You're talking more tax lawyer,
exactly.
But
that's tax planning, and that one is so important. Where talk to the experts, because
you're talking about, like, there's a huge difference, right? You're talking about, it could be hundreds of thousands of dollars, right?
In the example that you used, and that comes up a lot in my practice, definitely speak with the accountant first before you start doing the estate planning transfers, because it's just such a common comment when a client comes in and says, I'm adding the child's name onto the title, and I'm not claiming any money, but the CRA, Canada Revenue Agency, doesn't care about how much the child paid to get the interest in the property. They only care about what they say the value is. And
correct.
You don't necessarily want to be filling that in 2 years later after the audit comes. It's better to have your ducks in a row beforehand, and then make your decision based on having all the information, rather than trying to backfill later on.
And it's almost impossible for people to understand all the possible things that could come up, right? I mean, not to say that, but it's difficult. Like, there's so many, like, even, different things. Like, I guess when my grandfather, I guess there was money in the account, but then he had government support. So then the government takes the money from the account or something like that. So it's like, there's all this sort of stuff that comes up when you're coming to estate planning, and how it can all work. So whether it's transferring or whether all of this sort of stuff happens, you definitely need support. You need to kind of understand not the loopholes, but also just kind of how it all works, right?
There's consequences to most decisions and trade-offs,
and it's not always fair, right? It sounds like it'd be, oh no, that's okay, but no.
There's fair and there's legal, and you want to be doing what's right in both cases.
Correct. Awesome. Well, thanks for joining us. Thanks, guys. Take care.
Pleasure.
If you haven't already, hit that like, subscribe button. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Bye now.